Thank you for joining us, friends. Through this show each Saturday on Funasia, you also learn of all the ways in which each one of us, in the spirit of give where you live, is making a difference and can continue to make a difference. Times are tough, folks. Please visit HungerMitao.org to learn more. This community-led movement is unifying its hunger relief efforts to emerge as a big part of the solution to fighting hunger across America.
As our listeners know, HungerMitao started in North Texas Food Bank, but has since spread to several food banks across the country, namely our backyard Tarrant area, Houston, Seattle, Atlanta, New York City, Detroit, and of course, Feeding America, through which we make sure that we are able to make an impact across the country. I have a request of our listeners today. If you have friends, family, influencers in any of these areas, which I just mentioned, please connect them with us. We are looking for volunteers, donors, leaders, people who have a few hours to spare, as well as people who are looking for a purpose in their retirement. Please drop us a line at usa@hungermitao.org and let's unify to make an impact.
That's a great way to engage family and friends around a very important cause.
Well, Aradhana, what a weekend last weekend was. Let me recreate that special day for the benefit of our audience. Friends, November 12th, Saturday morning, started out bitterly cold. One may say it was a good day to turn over and sleep in. But the members of HungerMitao Steering Council of North Texas packed their trunks of their cars and headed out to the North Texas Food Bank to set up for the 5-year anniversary celebration of the HungerMitao movement. As the wind howled, those volunteers hummed away while setting up snacks, raffle, and informational table about the ways in which community can continue its support to North Texas Food Bank. The Indian American community started pouring in at 11 a.m. by when the sun was shining bright and its warmth welcomed everyone. First came the Seva Diwali team, which had rallied many of the US-based dharmic, linguistic, and compassionate organizations and individuals to conduct food drives across the Dallas-Fort Worth region. Between 11 a.m. and 12:30 p.m., there was a steady flow of cars that pulled up to the food bank to drop off non-perishable food. In all, over 10 tons of food was dropped off in a matter of just an hour and a half. Kudos to the Seva Diwali team. Also, children from Konkani Samaj, families culturally from the west coast of India, raised $1,250 for the food bank through their own initiative. Inspired by our good friend Rajiv Kamath, the kids got together and they raised this money for the food bank. This heartwarming achievement was matched by community leader Mukesh Parna, resulting in a donation of $2,500 to the North Texas Food Bank. Youngsters were doubly energized and cheered when they learned that due to a holiday match program at NTFB, their efforts resulted in enabling 15,000 nutritious meals for the food-challenged children, seniors, veterans, and families in need across North Texas. Kudos to the Konkani Samaj. Also, members of Chinmaya Mission DFW joined in by not only bringing in food collected from their food drives, but also dozens of them volunteering for the afternoon shift at the North Texas Food Bank. Friends, by midday, it warmed up, not just because of the energy of the sun, but because of the compassion of the Indian American community, which in the spirit of give where you live, came out in large numbers to donate food, funds, volunteer, and celebrate the impact that all of us Indian American community members have made in the fight against hunger. 15 million nutritious meals enabled for North Texas Food Bank in just the last 5 years. But friends, we cannot slow down now. Why, you may ask? Well, instead of Aradhana or I explaining the reasons, we are going to play an excerpt from a podcast that was recently done by the North Texas Food Bank. It's labeled Behind the Scenes, and I invite Chief External Affairs Officer Erica Yeager and Chief Operating Officer Maurice Wilson II from North Texas Food Bank, who very eloquently explained the challenges being faced by the North Texas Food Bank, and more importantly, the challenges being faced by the community out there, which could be your neighbor next door. So let me play that podcast for you. We'll very likely play half of that podcast in this radio show and the second half in the next radio show. So take it away, Erica.
Okay, and let's get going. So hello, everyone. Welcome. My name's Erica Yeager, and I have the privilege of serving as the Chief External Affairs Officer for the North Texas Food Bank and working with many of you. So thank you for spending your lunch hour with us as we present this next episode of Behind the Scenes. So these short informational sessions were designed to give some of our most valued partners and supporters a sneak peek into some of our work, timely and relevant work. So we thank you for your interest and investment in our mission, especially at a time when we're seeing increased demand and resource constraints. We know that the need for food assistance is great in our community, and it's growing along with the economic uncertainty that we're all facing as families, businesses, and communities. And we believe, you've heard us share before, that a nourished community is a thriving community. So we remain committed to ensuring that all of our neighbors have access to the food that they need. So I'm pleased to introduce you today to Maurice Wilson II, who joined the food bank team this summer as our Chief Operating Officer. So Maurice has a strong logistics background that includes military service and leadership positions at both Walmart and Wayfair. So we're excited for you to get to know him better today as he discusses the impact of inflation on our work. But first, I want to give you a quick peek into his story.
If I think about my own story, hunger was at the center. My mother struggled, but the whole family struggled. I can remember Christmases not receiving gifts. I can remember situations where I had to choose to not do things so that my younger siblings could have access to things. The biggest struggle was the stigma attached to being hungry or being less than or having opportunities with paying rent or making ends meet. There was a shame that was associated with it, which made it harder to ask for help. There was a negative connotation, which made it more difficult for people to have resources, because we all thought, at least that was the common thinking at that time, that they weren't trying to save themselves, and that nothing could be further from the reality. My mother worked 2 and 3 jobs and still couldn't make ends meet. As a child, I never, ever conceded to the fact that I would be hungry as an adult. And I committed to myself and to my family that that would not be our story. I'm Maurice Wilson, and I'm the COO of the North Texas Food Bank. Every place that I've been, whether it was the military, whether it was Walmart, Wayfair, I was always doing those things that were unconventional, but that were connecting to where people were and helping them get to better spaces and better places. My role as a COO is to get it done. No matter what our neighbors need, we have to build a supply chain that's able to support that. I am the face of hunger, and I will always be that. I will always be that child. Those memories will never leave. It's deep for me. It's not just my face that I see all the faces of those who were around me that as a child I could not help. And so I've been given the opportunity to come back to something so fundamental for me and to actually impact it. And I couldn't be more excited.
One of my favorite things about working with Maurice is he ends every conversation with the words, "Let's go." So Maurice, let's go. I'm turning it over to you.
Well, again, good afternoon. My name is Maurice Wilson II, and so I serve as the COO of the North Texas Food Bank. I'll talk a little bit about my background and kind of what drew me to the North Texas Food Bank. So started in the military, then went into logistics for Walmart, where I spent about 15 years, and then about 2 years in Wayfair. And one of the things that resonated for me was the need to get back to what was more fundamental to my story. I'm glad you guys got to see that clip because it really it answers the first question for you. I think if you're asking what drew me to the North Texas Food Bank, it was the mission. It's in alignment with service, which is really at the core of who I am. It was the people. We have amazing folks on this staff. Everyone here is just really committed to doing exceptional things. And then it was the partners. You know, what they do and who you guys are. It's just amazing. And so whether you're a partner in funding, whether you're a partner in service, it just was the right decision for me to come to the North Texas Food Bank. So excited to be here and look forward to meeting all of you along the way. Now I want to talk a little bit about where we are today. We just want to give an update on what communities are seeing and what's happening in the North Texas Food Bank area. And so if you're looking at that slide, it is the perfect storm. Rising inflation, supply chain issues, declining federal aid amidst heightened demand has created a perfect storm of events that is both ratcheting up our demand for food while also diminishing supply. A post-COVID pullback of federal aid in all its forms, from TFAP to direct aid, means the current situation is more alarming for many than it is even during the height of the pandemic. In terms of our community, at the beginning of 2022, the nation was just beginning to rebound from the pandemic. Things were beginning to look a little bit more normal, a lot better than they had in the previous years. But in the background, government aid for programs designed to help during the pandemic were beginning to sunset. Tax credits, extra SNAP payments, free school meals for all, for example, had either gone away or were about to. And so when you think about those rising costs, as you go into it, in March, the nation suddenly was facing a 40-year high inflation rate of 8.5%, causing our neighbors to make impossible choices. Neighbors are spending on average $325 more each month for food than they did this time last year. The rising cost of food is only a small part of the problem for many neighbors. The inflation rates for rent and transportation have been even higher, and that eats up more and more of what households need to survive. And it accounts for more than 40% of the total income for a lot of American households. So the reality of food insecurity really isn't about food. It's about income, where their income does not cover the needs. With inflation related to food, gas, housing costs, our neighbors in every zip code, many of whom were struggling before the pandemic, are facing increasingly difficult choices every day, deciding whether to purchase groceries or pay for other necessities such as gas, medicine, or utilities. That's a decision that no one should have to make. In terms of our demand since March, before the pandemic, the North Texas Food Bank provided access to an average of 7.3 million meals a month through distribution and SNAP application assistance. During the pandemic and through February of 2022, we provided access to an average of 10.5 million meals a month. On average, we have provided access to 12.3 million meals a month since March. So when you think about that level of growth in such a small amount of time with inflation on top of it, again, 7.3 to 10.5 to now 12.3 million meals a month. Since March of this year, we've seen a 17% increase in the number of meals the North Texas Food Bank has provided access to, both SNAP and distributed food. So that 12.3, we're still seeing an increase of up to 17% on top of that. And the reality is no one in North Texas should be hungry. I know that I was surprised to learn that nearly 700,000 North Texans are unsure where their next meal is coming from. Tragically, this includes more than 250,000 children, or 1 in every 5 in our region, giving the North Texas Food Bank service area the 4th highest level of food insecurity in the country. I know what that looks like, and I know what that feels like to be a child, and that's unacceptable. With record inflation, our neighbors are struggling to meet their basic family needs. The needs and demands are higher today than even at the height of the pandemic. So we're facing a lot. And then when we talk about what is the impact to the North Texas Food Bank and our feeding network, well, meal demand is up, food supply is down, and donations are starting to soften. The North Texas Food Bank has seen a 69% increase in meals delivered to the North Texans before the pandemic, but the North Texas Food Bank is not immune to the inflationary pressures. While we are seeing longer lines at distributions, we're facing soaring costs and other challenges in procuring food due to supply chain issues. So again, we're seeing delayed shipments, we're seeing less production, less output as other companies are. And so that fight is even more for us. The supply of food in our warehouses is lower than it's been in a while, and it's due in part to reductions in government support. And on top of that, the supply chain issue. And as you see those shelves, that's the worst thing to see. And I know, how that feels in each one of these opportunities. When you see it, it means a need that goes unfulfilled. And it's something that we work on every day. And that's our USDA room. So this is where the majority of this government aid would come in. The government aid that food banks saw during the pandemic is down. We estimate the amount of TFAP food nationwide will drop by 340% by the end of 2022, compared to the peak at 2020. That means that the North Texas Food Bank has less food provided by the government and is having to subsidize that by spending a much larger percentage of our budget to acquire enough food to meet the elevated demand. Now, the good news is that the USDA recently announced that it is making $500 million in additional funding available to existing local food purchase assistance programs. This supports local food purchases for emergency food systems. However, food banks will not be able to place orders for food until the beginning of 2023, when their cycle begins again. This means we're heading into the busy holiday season in need of food. In addition to less government supplied food, supply chain issues are causing significant delays in food shipments that the North Texas Food Bank has had to purchase, which means our feeding partners have fewer food items to choose from for their food pantries. Now, we're hoping these shipments will be arriving within the next few weeks, but we're currently working on what we can do to align better practices to get more freight in faster. So again, as we look at that, the basic premise, meal demand up, food supply down, donations softening, the North Texas Food Bank is responding the best we can by pursuing a number of strategies, and I want to share some of those with you. So we're calling upon government agencies for help, building up pathways for increased produce distribution, expanding relationships with grocer donors, and ramping up fundraising efforts. I would tell you that year to date, we are up 5 million in terms of our donated pounds. So our teams are sourcing more food and getting that food out to these communities. North Texas Food Bank now has more transportation bandwidth to pick up donations from area groceries compared when it was scrambling to get emergency food out to agencies during COVID. Over the last year, the North Texas Food Bank has increased its number of retail donors by 21% to 407 relationships, expanding its percentage of donated food to 59%, up from 42%. North Texas Food Bank's cost to serve from logistics and transportation is down 5% as we continue to steward donor dollars. So we want to operate under the lowest cost that we can and transfer all those savings into the food that we need to purchase. And the news is that we are doing that currently. North Texas Food Bank is operating on a deficit budget to meet the need. We are currently working from a budget of 60 million, but are only projecting 41 million in public support. We had planned for that, but that is not sustainable. So that additional from 41 to 60, we're making that up out of the pocketbook. and we know that's not sustainable. But no matter the need, the North Texas Food Bank is committed to working with our feeding network to provide the right food to the right place at the right time. That requires us to secure the needed food, funds, and volunteers to serve our neighbors. The current environment is driving our need to evaluate and improve how we procure and distribute food, which includes evaluating our current fleet of trucks, our processes and procedures, and systems for managing food intake and distribution, and working closely with our feeding network to make sure that we are providing nutritious and culturally relevant food selections to our neighbors. Inflation has impacted our donors as well. Although the community has been very generous and supportive of their neighbors in need, we are seeing a softening in giving. However, the community continues to support the North Texas Food Bank through volunteering, and volunteers are the lifeblood of the organization. As we look at our strategic plan, the North Texas Food Bank has a solid strategy for providing food for today and hope for tomorrow, and is committed to providing the food and resources needed to help close the hunger gap in North Texas. We could not do that without the support of our community in terms of funds, food, volunteers, and advocacy. And we're thankful for the partnerships that we have in addressing such a complex issue.
Thank you very much, Maurice and Erica. That was wonderful insights into the challenges faced by the community in today's very interesting, as Maurice said, the perfect storm time. And also, I was heartened to know the steps that North Texas Food Bank is taking to make sure that no one goes hungry. We really appreciate that. In the next radio show, we will play the Q&A portion of your podcast. So this is all we have today, friends. Thank you for joining us and listening. Remember to visit ntfb.org/HungerMitao to participate in and learn about all the events and activities that HungerMitao has planned. The community-driven movement has enabled, as you know, 50 million meals across the United States, over 15 million meals right here in North Texas. Kudos to everybody.
Our mission, friends, is HungerMitao. And HungerMitao is as much about eradicating hunger as it is about unifying the fragmented efforts of our community and focusing it on the humanitarian cause of hunger. Let us come together as the entire Indian American community and show how we engage in any place we call home. We are smart, compassionate change agents who give where we live, so our communities benefit from our presence.
So until next week, friends, remember, we may never be able to eradicate hunger, but let us ensure no one goes hungry.
Hello friends, this is Bharat and Meena Trivedi.
Tina and Sunil Kiani.
Danny.
And Rinku Mehta.
Sid.
And Archana Nair.
Pawan.
And Rinki Agrawal.
T and Deepak Arora.
Smita.
And Vivek Chaudaha.
Anjali Desai.
Sejal Desai.
Hi there, this is Erin Fincher with the North Texas Food Bank.
Ilanga.
Hi, I'm Johnny Jenkins with the North Texas Food Bank.
Hi, this is Priyanka.
And Vinay Kedia.
Suvarna.
Aurea.
And Manoj Khadi.
Sapna.
And Gaurav Lal.
Raj.
And Aradhna Asava.
Together,
we support
HungerMitao.
चल के तुझे मैं लेके चलूं एक ऐसे गगन के तले जहां हम भी न हो आंसू भी न हो बस प्यार ही प्यार पले चल के तुझे मैं लेके चलूं एक ऐसे गगन के तले जहां हम भी न हो आंसू भी न हो बस प्यार ही प्यार फले, एक ऐसे गगन के तले। सूरज की पहली किरण से आशा का सवेरा जागे, सूरज की पहली किरण से आशा का सवेरा जागे, चंदा की किरण से ढलकर घनघोर अंधेरा भागे, चंदा की किरण से ढलकर घनघोर अंधेरा भागे। कभी धूप खिले कभी छाँव मिले, लंबी सी डगर न खले, जहाँ हम भी न हो आंसू भी न हो, बस प्यार ही प्यार फले, एक ऐसे गगन के तले।